But honestly, he's like the best editor I could have, and they've done a fantastic job with the book, so I'm a very, very happy camper. I also wanted to just recognize one person here who also deserves some recognition, and that is Michelle Legal, who a colleague of mine, who, lucky for me, was raised in France, speaks fluent French, and was also a professor of Mid-Eastern Studies, who speaks Arabic and so on. So he was just saved me from a million faults, and also had wonderful taste and has become a wonderful friend. So Michelle, thanks so much for all you've done for this book. Okay, so a few months back when my first novel, The Worlds I Found, was reissued, I gave a reading on the theme of fathers and sons. So tonight, in the interest of fairness and balance, I'm going to read on an equally bloated theme, mothers and sons, or sons and mother figures, as the case may be. Tonight, then, we'll explore this theme in three brief readings. So I'd like to begin at the beginning with Rimbaud's mother in the prologue of the book. It's 1901, almost 10 years after Rimbaud's death. He is now so famous, he's about to have his own statue in the town square. And so famous indeed that the Rimbaud's peasants are now allowed to be buried in the exalted town graveyard. In preparation for which, his mother, Madame Rimbaud, or Veuve Rimbaud, meaning Widow Rimbaud, as she insists on being called, well, she is having him and his younger sister exhumed for reburial. And being her, she's personally supervising. This is called Raising the Dead, in the very beginning of the book. The gravedigger raises his pick, then drives it with a cough into the hard, rocky soil. And there in a black gig, not 30 feet away, sits the old woman draped in black veil, a pool of shadow watching the man's every move. Raise the dead. For behind the gravedigger, laid to the side in the grass, are two now to be discarded grave markers, white like upturned faces in the sun. Such was the gravedigger's hard task today, to rebury the old woman's two children, two of the four, a daughter gone for 25 years, and the son, the famous poet, Arthur Rimbaud, for almost 10. When clang, the gravedigger's pick strikes another large stone. Careful! The veil stirs, revealing a glimpse of craggy face and spud-like nose. Monsieur Lupeau, there is no hurry, obviously. Madame, Veuve, widow, she retorts in an unhandy voice. Do you forget the conversation we had earlier? You will call me Veuve Rimbaud. And as for these rocks, do you blame the shovel? Do you blame the pick? Who then, Monsieur, God above? Unavoidable, replies Lupeau, a solid man, beefy mustache and sunburn. Beery smelling, she thinks, and the insolence of him holding out a rock as he adds, there is a reason, Rimbaud, why your farm is named Roche, rock. What, she says, now aroused, raising the veil like two black wings. So we surrender to the rocks, to break the legs of our cows and our horses? Then to distract her, the gravedigger pays her, he thinks, a compliment. I hear they are giving Arthur his own statue in the town square. Ridiculous. Give the money to the poor. How she hates it when the townspeople call him Arthur, as if he were there as the friendly village ghost. One leg. Of course she had heard the awful joke, that against her terrible mother he had only one leg to stand on after they amputated the other in Marseille. It was an emergency operation when he returned from Africa with his right knee swollen the size of a beehive with carcinoma. 12 hellish days being carried on a litter across the desert, followed by hostiles. 38 souls they had crossed the Abyssinian desert, the capsized land of blue mountains, red mud, volcanic washes, and dried up riverbeds that might have been plowed by whales. But fame for the old woman, this is the true plague. His would-be alkalites and the curious now descending on her with their impertinent questions. Scruffy littérateurs and journalists, threadbare poets, pince-nez professors and similar busybodies from Paris, Bordeaux, London, and Brussels, all knocking on her door, accosting her on her street, shocked that he, their God, could have sprung the likes of her, and all with the same idiotic questions. But why did he stop writing? Did he stop? But how could he just stop writing? And why to Africa? And did he not return with manuscripts? And are you quite sure, Madame, there are no other manuscripts? Add to this the many rumors heaped on her. Just before his death, when he returned from Africa, he brought back a great final outpouring of poems, indeed the future of poetry, which his mother then burned like witches in a great bonfire upon a wintry hill. Second reading. This time we go back 30 years to 1871. At this time, Rimbaud is 16. Before this scene, Rimbaud has sent his poems to a famous poet, a Parisian poet named Paul Verlaine. 10 years older than he is. Verlaine is stunned. I mean, to the point that he takes up a subscription to bring the great Rimbaud to Paris. A poet he naturally assumes to be a grown man, surely a man in his 30s or 40s. Certainly Verlaine has no idea that Rimbaud is a boy, much less a boy that will pull him into a homosexual union, ruin his marriage, spend the better part of his inheritance, and lead him like a lamb to prison and disgrace. Here we meet Rimbaud on his first morning in Paris, on a wealthy street in the Montmartre, where the habitually drunken and employment-challenged Verlaine is living precariously with his pregnant teenage wife, Mathilde, and her parents, the aristocratic Mottets. This is called ill-timed visit. The next morning, Verlaine, needless to say, was not at home in his soft bed at 14 Rue Nicolet. And so it was that shortly after 9, far too early for callers, that a dirty hand lifted the massive brass knocker and gave 4 resounding knocks, then a 5th, then, injurious to the peace, even a 6th. Naturally, one of the maids answered. Then with swishing maid steps hurried into the parlor where the women maintained their vigil for the absent Paul, the furious Madame Mottet in her high-backed chair, and opposite her, on the lyre-like fainting couch, the dazed and puffy-eyed Mathilde, rubbing her enormous belly. Madame Mottet made a face when the maid informed her who it was at the door, or claimed to be, rather. Impossible. Did he not give you his card? No, Madame, nothing. Hauling up her overabundance of petticoats, then the swan-like bustle, Madame Mottet did the unprecedented and answered her own door, stunned. It was exactly as the maid had said. For here claiming to be Arthur Rimbaud was not the grown man they all expected, but rather a blond, blue-eyed schoolboy in platache, wearing a bowler hat, an ill-fitting jacket, 2 twisted strips suggestive of a tie, and ankle-high trousers. No bow, not even a tip of a hat. I assure you, insisted the boy for the second time, I am Arthur Rimbaud. Ah, she scoffed. You played a trick on me, boy. Perhaps you were Monsieur Rimbaud's nephew. Madame Mottet peered around the doorway looking for her son-in-law's feet under the bushes, some drunk's idea of a joke. Paul, enough, she cried. No more tricks. Produce the real Rimbaud. I am the real Rimbaud. Whereupon, as evidence, the boy withdrew from his back pocket a sweaty wad of paper, slapped it to life, then unfolded it damp and smeary. There, do you see? My newest poem, brand new, The Drunken Boat. What kind of title is that, she challenged. Drunken boats. Boats do not get drunk. How old are you? You can just blush. His face bloomed in splotchy adolescent dials of rose. In these hormonal days he embarrassed easily, particularly in the presence of women, and especially with this one of aristocratic bearing. 17, he lied. 17. I think 15, perhaps. Where's your luggage, young man? Did it fall off the hay wagon? As you see, he said with a crimson shrug, I am wearing. Look at this, she said, her bustle swaying like the tail of a honeybee. No clothes, drunken boats. Turning back, she called to her daughter, who just then had emerged. Do you see this adult child? He insists that he is the great Rimbaud. She hitched up her hips, and to his mortification he cringed just as he did when in her palm his mother held a slap with which to paint his impudent face. But clearly this was not his mother, nor his class, nor anything even remotely in his experience. Very well then, Monsieur Rimbaud, who arrives in Paris sans valise. Please, she said, motioning him inside, I am most sorry that I mistook you. Now please do follow me into the salon. Later he heard,